Alright, so we look at how to implement 5.3 questions here. So this 5.3, chapter 5.3 is focusing on the what is instance variables and local variables. So we want to see what's the difference. And if you really look at the question, it's pretty much same thing that we used to in 5.2. We talk about person, but this one we talk about car. So car has the attributes, right? Color, horsepower, engine size, right? Make, right? And this time I'm going to show you, last time I showed you on Eclipse, right? This time I'm going to show you implementing on Android, right? For extra credits. And it should be just the same, but I just want to focus on how you organize your files, like create a new package for that. So we're waiting for this to load. Then we're gonna look at the method for this. Same, we want to have getter and setters. So that's going to return the color and horsepower, right? Size and make, right? Of the car and set, right? Setters. Same thing, you can start to draw the UML diagram for that, right? So, and we use Lucid Chart to draw the UML diagram, right? For car, which, yeah, you require to submit that too. Okay. So let's take a look at the UML diagram for car. So you may see first the class is car, first row, right? And these are the attributes. Minus, those are private, right? Color, string, horsepower, int, engine size, double, make, string. Now, you see something like we call count int equal to 0. If you want to initialize, we can do that. Let's talk about this one. And we have something special, we underline it. So what does it mean underline? So underline means it's statics. Okay, so let's look at, we're gonna talk about 5.3 and 5.4 at the same time. Okay, so 5.3 pretty much just try to show you the same thing. We create a class, right, with the setters, and these are the methods setter and getters, toString and constructor with no parameters and with parameters. Okay, so let's check that one out first before we talk about static thing here. Okay, so we see constructor with no parameters and constructor with parameters, which is all the attributes values, right? Getters, get color, string, set color, void type, pass parameter as color string in, get horsepower, set horsepower, right? So when you setters, it's void. Again, setter sometimes you may see is called mutator, and getter you may see is called accessor. So we do get set for each of the attributes here and do toString. Alright, you may see that there are two new methods here with its underline again, get count. And this is a statics. Whenever statics, we do underline. Like we already know static method, right? Public static void main, you use that. So when you make it static, you will underline. Now you also use statics before when we talk about math.square-root, math.absolute. From your 5.1, you do math.sqrt. You don't have to instantiate an object to use. So we can look at that. Okay, so let's see, for 5.2 here, we pretty much just create all the method that is required there. We draw a UML diagram. And ask you to create a car class, right? Name my car, right? So let's look at the code now. So you may see I start to look at Java folder and I create a package named car game. So under this package I create car. So let's take a look at car. So this is car. So this is exactly from UML diagram that we just created, right? But whenever you see underline, we put statics, right? Right, so let's look at UML diagram one more time here. See that? So I have 5 attributes and count underline as statics right there. So when underline static and equal to 0, that means assign values to it, right? And same thing, we have constructors car, right? So let me put it next to each other here. There you go, with the default values I just created. And what's the count here? Count pretty much just going to keep counting how many cars that I have created. Like when you instantiate a new like person, John, person, Mushahid, person, list. So we want to count how many times we create object. We do count plus plus. Then know how many times, right? So which the same thing we put inside the constructor with the parameters here too, right? So those two constructors, we have get color, right? Get, and we have now order by color, make, engine, horsepower. So have all the getter first, get count, get make, return make, right? And of course you want to do comments here, right? With the Java doc, right? Now I didn't fill the rest, so you may just don't forget to do that, right? Initialize a car, right? Object to like Toyota to white, right? Toyota. Engine size 5.2 and horsepower is 300, right? So that's pretty much initialized. So you pretty much just want to fill in like that, right? And if you don't give the values like explaining what's make of a car, when you build the Java doc build, it's going to throw like warning message rate. So just make sure you put that in, otherwise you see the warning, right? Like color of a car and so on. So I'm not going to do the rest. You pretty much know how to do it. Just explain for each method. And then I have get count. Get count is statics. That's why I have the underline right there, right? Return ends. So that's statics. When we see underline, put statics, right? Get make, set make, get color, set color, get engine size, set engine size, get horsepower, set horsepower. This is just extra one. I don't really need it. I'm going to just equals. Now you see we have equals too. So let's talk about equals here. So if you look at what we have done before in 5.2, we said test whether two person objects are equal. And how do we do it? We pretty much just do if, right? If we do if, or one is younger, one is greater, like order, we do less than and greater than, right? Inside your main, which you should not have to do that. You're going to create a method named equals instead, right? Like this is what we have done, right? If you do equals, you just do maybe, if it's age, you just do like that, right? Compare, which you don't have to do that, right? Then we said we can just construct a method named equals like that. Okay? And if you look at the UML diagram, so it's showing that equals take an object as car type. So that's why we have car and parameter name obj, right? Like it's just compare itself, right? So this is called self-reference, right? So now it's going to return, if it's the same, it's going to return true as a Boolean, otherwise returns false. So for this one, I pretty much just create a Boolean status as a local variables here, right? Now we want to see, this is called local variables, right? It's not going to be valid outside. Like if get horsepower try to say status, it's not going to know it. As well as like engine size here is a primary, which is a local variables to this method, right? This is called local variables, and this is called instance variables, right? Instance variable is global because it's at the class level. So all the methods pretty much know this, right? But make, like if I get into get count will never know what is make, because make is local to this. But get count know this dot make, right? So that's the concept of the thing that we want to focus here, right? Instant variables versus local variable here, right? So go back to your equals. So we have local variable status, right? And local instance, right? Car, which is object, right? So that means if I want to compare this local instant object to the car with the attributes, I could just say this dot get color, right? Or this dot color. Either one is fine, right? So if I do this, it's going to call get color method. I have to say this because we try to compare this car to the object that we pass in, object.getColor, right? Or I want to do dot get color because if you remember, I cannot say object.color because they are private. So I have to get the color as a public to compare, right? And it's string, that's why I use equals. And the only time that two cars are equals, that means they have the same color. So I start to compare color. And they have the same engine size, right? Engine size is int, so that's why we use two equals, right? To compare. And they have the same horsepower with 2 equals 2, right? Engine size double, horsepower is int. And you see I use and logic operators. Like if one is false, then this whole thing is not, it's going to return false, right? Because this is an operator. And last one I compare is make, is string, so dot equals. So I just construct the equals method to use instead now. Instead of you have to do write if else on your own, you don't have to anymore. So then I just return the status back, right? Either true or false. If all of them are equals, then it returns true, because assign equals to, right? Otherwise it's going to return false. And lastly is toString, right? Return the information about the car, right, in the nicely formatting string, right? Now come back and look at the question. So it asks you to create the car driver. Now if you use the Android Studio, pretty much I'm going to make it into your main activity here, right? If you want to create a new activity named car driver, which is fine too, right? So new JavaClass, right? I can put in this package, right? Like separate package, and normally Android they just call like activity, so I'm gonna call car activity then, okay? Like you see, it's always end with the activity, right? So now when you're doing this, you pretty much the same. You have to extend, right? App compact activity, right? So I'm going to split this, then we can just see a sample code too. Right. So we extend